All right. So this is a bit different, as you probably could tell. You see a feminist in the thumbnail, and look, don't like, um, I like anime, but I like talking about other stuff too. So I'm thinking that maybe when I do these type of streams, I could make it sort of like a broadcasting thing, so that I will make this like sort of just like my rant and whatever. If I want to play like a certain game, I'll do that, and I'll do my anime fucking edits and all that. I'm still working on some videos, but right now I just want to talk about this. So the title says I took a women's studies class and I hated it. I took a whole semester of that class and I fucking hated it. Now you might be thinking, why the fuck are you taking a women's studies class? Well, let me explain. So in my college, there's this thing called SBCs, and they're basically requirements of just what you should take, what you need to take to graduate, right? And this women's studies class covered basically three requirements, and I was like, yo, this is nice. Talk some random bullshit about women and whatever, and I always had this like curiosity about like just feminism. I've always had this like idea of like maybe the problem isn't them. Maybe the problem it's me. Maybe I'm not getting something. Maybe they're saying something that actually does make sense, but just like everyone in the world just seems to just not understand it, or just they're just saying it completely wrong. So I took this women's studies class. Oh my god, it is the most painful class I've ever been in. I'm not the type of guy who usually like skips classes, but oh my god, I would take any opportunity to skip class. Oh, I missed the train, I'll skip the class. Oh, it's raining outside, I'll skip the class. It's oh my god, it's brutal. It's absolutely brutal. The thing with this women's studies class is that it relates to sociology. And my first problem with this class is that sociology, they treat it as a science. Look, science for me is simple. It's hardcore, just like experiments, whether you fucking do like chemicals and shit and you pour in whatever and see what the fuck will happen if it blows up or if it whatever. And if it's like physics, or like you throw a rock and then just weigh how fast it goes down or whatever, like you know what I mean. Psychology, you could consider it a science, but not really, because there's not really any like scientific data that you could go around it. There's statistics, but there's not necessarily like evidence, I guess. Sociology is like psychology, but like way worse. Like way worse. There's gonna be like a thing that's like they're gonna be talking about like further on in the stream, that they just like basically just take random samples and consider it as fact, which is just absolute bonkers. Look, the way I see that sociology as a science is that they thought of something, whether it's just women should deserve rights. Okay, they logically think about it, and then that's their conclusion. That's their experiment. That's their whatever. You see, when you do that, when you say that like in a scientific standpoint, right? If you say that, if I put water in my noodles, right, they'll boil in 3 minutes, right? You can basically try to repeat that experiment and try to get this similar data. It's like, 2 minutes it actually boils faster in some noodles and whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's repeatability. Sociology doesn't even get to the experimental phase in the first place. That's another thing. I consider it as it's sort of less of a science and more of a religion. I am sharing you my review session, my beautiful, beautiful study guide for this class. It is a very long study guide, and I'm taking a final in like a couple of days, so I'm sort of using this as like a review, but I'm also using this as my rant. If you look at here, social constructionism is like the first thing they talk about. For the people who don't know what social constructionism is all about, it says it right there. A theory of knowledge that holds the characteristic typically to be, that's bullshit. Whatever the fuck that means. So basically, if something is for example, like this, like gender is a social construct. What I mean by that is that if you take a man and just put him in a space with zero context, you would not call it a man. You would just call it a being. You know what I mean? Sure, he has a penis, sure, he has whatever, but the concept of it being a man is a social construct. The fact that it has a penis, thus making it a man, is a social construct. The idea of a man is a social construct. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's what. So yeah, such as again gender, race, which is nuts, because the idea of social construct is that there's zero biological evidence to support that this thing exists. I'll talk about gender a little bit after this, but race is interesting because I understand that some people are like in the area of like, yeah, there's biological differences between races. A black guy looks incredibly different than a white guy would. You know, it's fairly obvious. I mean, if you think about it, right? If you think about it, that most white people are white, then you might want to say that, oh, pigmentation is the biological difference between the races. But they could say like, oh well, there's such thing as like black. What's the word I'm looking for? Fuck. Whatever. There's like light skinned dark people, and there's dark skinned white people. You know, they make that. See, the problem with the race question when it comes to social constructionism, it's like, sure, there are people out of the spectrum. There's like black people who have lighter skin, and there's white people who have darker skin. But those are like the exceptions. I feel like there's more black people who have darker skin. See what I mean? Social constructionism is, in a way, a religion, because you need to fully believe in social constructionism to the point where like you would take it over your religion, you would take it over your morals, you would take it over anything, over your biological understanding of social, like whatever, to make it like, oh yeah, I'll take social, like race is social construct, class is social construct. That's a lot more understandable. Sexuality is a social construct, we'll talk about later, and that's a whole different whatever. Right. So talk about that. So gender. I'm pretty sure if you've seen anything about anything, right? You've seen like the idea of multiple genders. There's always this like, oh, there's more than two genders, and everyone's like, oh, haha, it's the shirt says male and female. Ah, you fucking idiot, got him, stupid feminist. That's the one thing that I learned from this class, or like the idea of what they're trying to say about gender, is that there's the difference between gender and sex. So gendered is purely social. Like you could technically identify as a fridge, and that's technically okay for sociology people. Like you could dead ass think of it as you as a fridge, and they would be okay with it. If you want to identify yourself as a living fridge, like I know, I keep on stressing this, it is completely okay. I know it's a joke, but you could technically do that because gender is completely social. You can have a penis, you could have like 3 penises, and somehow identify as a woman, as a gender. You can do that. The like gender is affiliation, because it's you as a human being. So basically, if you're a 14-year-old, if you're whatever year old, if you're a dude who has a penis but feels like is a woman, wants to act like a woman, wants to go to women toilets, you could technically identify as a woman. It is just purely social. It is like saying that I like anime, basically. That's what gender is. It's saying that I prefer anime than Western Movies. That's basically what gender is. It's purely just your affiliation. Now, what sex is purely biological. Your typical boys have penises, girls have vaginas, whatever. That's just sex. That's purely biological. That's purely like, the chromosomes and whatever. That's sex. That's what you think of gender is sex. That's what it is. But the thing that I also agree with women's studies is that sex is not binary. What it means by that is there's not only the male and the female sex. There's always the people in the middle. You know what I mean? Like, look, what do you call a man with tits? You know what I mean? Like, what do you call a man with tits? Do you call him a female? Do you call him a man? Like, you know what I mean? He has a penis and two tits. Like, what do you call that? I honestly don't know. I honestly don't know, because in one hand got tits, the second hand has a penis. You know what I mean? See, that's why I understand the non-binary of sexuality. I think that makes sense, because I know for a fact that people like that exist. I know for a fact that people. I've seen it. It's not. I've seen it in like porn sites, and I'm like, oh, that sort of just ruins the mood. No offense, but yeah, I don't know. It's just not my type. It's not my type. Which I will get to again later on, because they talk also about how sexuality, you can be racialized and whatever. Fuck it. That's a whole different thing. So that's social constructionism, and my comment on that is that it just has zero room for other people's beliefs. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. Like, if you genuinely believe in religion, or whether it's Christianity, Buddhism, if you're Muslim, if you're whatever, it is from there. Like, it's in the religious text that there is two genders, and that's not a social construct. The concept God is not a social construct. If you believe in a religion, it's not. It's just God. It's a being. It's the almighty, all lordship. A sociologist would argue that, oh yeah, God is a social construct. Do you know how fucking offensive that sounds? Like, to say that God is a social construct is fucking insane. It is fucking insane. You should, like, it's like basically saying that no, God doesn't exist. It's basically as bad as it is as bad as that. It is as bad as that. Saying that God is a social construct is saying that God doesn't exist. And the reason why sociology is treated as a religion is because it does not have, like, it doesn't have enough room for religion to be a part of it. You cannot be a Muslim sociologist because you cannot trust in social constructionism, because it's just, yeah, because everything in sociology is revolving around this concept. And if you can't accept this concept, you cannot be part of this study. But I prefer to call it religion. So that's social constructionism. Social constructionism. Construction, whatever. So we go to race. We talked a lot about it a little bit on how, like, race is not biological and how it's like whatever. I'm just saying that it's stupid to make this claim, because even they admitted that although it's a social construct, race obviously matters a lot. We see this in, like, Black Lives Matter movements and whatever, and they're like, you know what I mean? If you live in America or live in the Western world, you probably understand that race is a thing. Just a little side story here. I was going to 7-Eleven, getting some, what was I getting? Like bread and like lemonade, and I was like, yeah, I'm having my life. Parked my bike, and some dude called me Chinese. I'm not Chinese. I'm not Chinese by the lightest. I'm not Chinese. Like, I don't know what else to tell you. It's just, race is a thing, and race matters, but race is not biological, as they say, and which I don't know. It's a stupid claim. It's a stupid claim to make. But whatever, it literally doesn't matter. We talk about race a lot in this class, and there's the thing with this class. They would say things that are so bizarre that it sticks in my mind for a little bit, for a long time, not a little bit, and they do not want to explain it. Like I remember in one of these classes when we were talking about race, they were talking about how um, feminism grew out of the what's it called, the civil rights movement, right, with Martin Luther King or whatever. They were calling Martin Luther King and Malcolm X sexist, and I was like, yeah, I mean, like I understand their ideas of why they think that Martin Luther King might be sexist and Malcolm X might be sexist because they didn't have any women putting input on the any gay women, any black women, any women at all to put their takes on the problem. But God, you just, I don't know. They just can't say that when it's someone like that. When it's someone like Martin Luther King, and it's someone that's like very very well like iconized. You know what I mean? Like this guy like literally, you know, killed segregation. Basically had a big W on just human rights. And calling him a sexist is just like that wasn't the fight that he was going for. Like, you know what I mean? That was not the type of fight that he was fighting. He was just saying black, white, like all that. All that. That was what we're fighting for. He wasn't talking about black women, black men, black transgenders, black gays. He was talking about black and women. Just that. Sorry, black and white. Just that. There's nothing else. And it's just, you just can't. I don't know. I was really like I was taken back. I wasn't offended because I'm not black and I don't care, but I was just taken back at the bravery, I guess, to the point where like you could say that in a class, and nobody just questioned it. Not a single soul. Not a single soul was like, "Yo, what the fuck did you just say?" You can't just say that. Like, is it true? But is it like, you know what I mean? It's the same question of just like, should we like take down George Washington's like monuments because he owned slaves, but on the other hand he did make the whole country. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's less bad than that. It's less bad, but like it's still worth questioning. But we talked about race. We talked about in this class about racialization and how like, I don't know, yeah, people get racialized as white, people got racialized as black. There's sort of like this black and white binary in America. What it means by that is that it's always divided as you're white or you're not white, and not white could literally be Latino, it could literally mean black, it mean Dominican. You get the idea. It's actually a very interesting concept, but I feel like Asians get racialized very differently than black people, like way differently. As I could tell, the story about the 7-Eleven thing. That's like, you don't get racialized like that if you're black. You will never. There's no way in hell that that you could get racialized for acting like a Chinese man where you're black. That doesn't make sense. The ideas that you get if you're racist of a black man and a Chinese man are totally different. Which is something. I'm just saying, as an Asian man, whatever. Ethnicity. This is where to talk about ethnicity and how like ethnicity gets more the difference between race and ethnicity is that ethnicity is more specific. Like, if you're black, you could be Cuban, you could be like, you know, East African, you could be West African, you could be North African, you could be South African, you could be just African American, right? That's the thing with black. Like, ethnicity divides that. You could be Polish, you could be Irish, as I said there. You could be Latino, you could be Dominican, you could be West African, East African, you could be Chinese, you'll be Japanese. You know what I mean? There, like, if If you're not racist, you could tell the difference. You could tell the difference between a Japanese man and a Chinese man. They're more culturally, they're very different. Like the Chinese culture is very different than Japanese culture, and East African culture is definitely different than African American culture. It's yeah, it's that. We talked about Crip of Color critique, which is just like one of the people in the class really wanted to talk about crippled people and how like people are ableist. Um, I was just so confused, like why you want to add more topics to a class, even if you like the class. Why would you want to do that in the first place? Is weird to me. But the thing with Crip Color critique is that this world is not built for crippled people. This world is built for, well, I won't say regular people, but like people who was abled. You know what I mean? Like they say that it comes from like the Industrial Revolution and like capitalism is bad and how like it means like everything's like built to like no, I don't know. It's everyone's built to the point where like how can they like service the capitalist, whatever. It's it's an interesting paper, but it's not like amazing. I look, if we make everything available for everyone, it's just gonna be very expensive. Like, I understand that maybe having an elevator is good for disabled people because, well, they can't really do stairs, can't they? But it's just gonna take a lot of money to install that elevator. And really, the differences in sales, you know what I mean? Like, there's the world is capitalist, like, it's just the way it is, besides like the three communist countries out there, but like the world is the world is capitalist. And as a person who owns a building, and if you want to install an elevator, right, that's going to take a lot of cost. And what's the positive in that? How many of your actual demographic that's trying to like buy your product is actually crippled? And how would that, like, why would you spend that extra money to really appease a very small demographic? Look, it's unfair, I get it, and I feel terrible by saying this, but it's just the way of the world. Yeah, there's this guy, I can't remember his name, but like he has a TikTok and he has a YouTube channel. He's like a blind guy, and he does like skating videos, and he does like talks about like his dead brother a lot, and he was like, and most of his videos is just like how to do simple things as a blind person, like how do you make a cookie as a blind person, you know what I mean, and like how he like figures it out. It's terrible that he has to go through all that just to fucking make simple things as an able person can like do. But like, it's sad, but it's just the way of the world. It's sad, but it's just the way of the world. I feel like, it's just sad, because of course it's not like he chose to be handicapped. It's just sad. Gender and sex, I've sort of talked about it, but the thing I really want to like completely talk about is two things: testosterone, which is I feel like they're trying to misconcept testosterone, which is a terrible thing. But testosterone, like, I'll talk about it, and reproductive rights, which is just simple, abortion shit and whatever. The new sciences of different sex. I don't even want to know what that means. And gender as a Western invention. Okay, so let's talk about testosterone first. I love the UFC. Like, I watch a lot of the UFC. I play a lot of UFC games. I played UFC 4. I played UFC 3. I just love fighting games. They make this the whole time we talk about testosterone, because testosterone gets dubbed as this male and like masculine not element, like yeah, fuck. What's the word I'm looking for? Whatever, you know what I mean. Like it gets dubbed as being like masculine and becomes like ultra macho. Like you know what I mean. Like if you take testosterone, you're forced to be masculine, which is they're trying to say that that's not the case. It says here that falsely believed T, which is testosterone, is about libido, aggression, focus, facility with science and math, which is wrong, as they claim. Testosterone is found to affect more than just sex, but bone development, heart function, and liver metabolism. See, here's the thing. I understand that they say that. I understand that. But athletes, right? Athletes who in the UFC pre-USADA was constantly buffing up their testosterone. And you could see them performing better. They were just hitting harder. They were just more. They looked better. Like here, a perfect example is Vitor Belfort, who fucking kicked the literal eye out of Michael Bisping. Like you would not see that from a 40-year-old if he did not take testosterone. You would not. You would not. And I just don't believe it. I just don't believe it because look, Brock Lesnar took testosterone, and that man went and become the UFC heavyweight champion. USADA came around, and he never looked the same. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with a ton of fighters. What's his name? Johnny Hendricks, the guy who almost beat GSP. He fucking was going crazy. He almost beat one of the greatest welterweights of all time. But at the end of the day, USADA came around and he just he's been fucking doing this and this and this, and he just never looked the same. That's the thing. Well, that's why I don't believe in the idea that testosterone is just this fake thing. I think testosterone does affect aggression. I think testosterone does affect focus. It definitely affects bone development and muscle development and heart development and liver metabolism. I agree that but they even said it themselves that testosterone is not well researched, and they're like, oh, there's still more things that testosterone can do. The case that they try to make is that women also have testosterone, which is true. Women do also have testosterone, and they do testosterone is active in both parties, and for women's side, it's more like I don't know. It's just I just disagree with the idea that testosterone doesn't matter in a sense of making you more focused, because I see it from first-hand experience that it does. Whether it's just psychological, or it's just purely I think it is. I think it's purely just it's chemicals wrapped up to your brain, and then it's just makes you more focused. Gender as a Western invention isn't. I like that chapter. I really do, because it's basically just a middle finger to people who claim that there's more than two genders. I want to tell you a little story. I come from an Asian country. I won't specify. Maybe I'll specify one day, but I won't specify now. I come from this Western country that's majority is Muslim, and everyone anyone is a Muslim. You can call them. They drop the class. Look, man, I'm already taking the final. Oh fuck, that's 15 minutes ago. Oh lol, whatever. I should fucking have my fucking chat up, but I don't. Yeah, what was I talking about? Gender as a Western invention, right? Right. So, gender is a Western invention because it just does not exist in Asia. It just does not. It doesn't exist outside of the Western world. If you ask someone in Asia, whether in China, maybe in China, why not specify my country? Fine, if you want to know, it's Indonesia. If you know where that is, it's it's below Philippines. It's above Australia. I don't live there anymore. I'm way from there. That's why I'm taking a women's studies class. But what was I saying? Yeah, so like it does not exist. It does not exist as a concept. You do not ask people for their pronouns in Asia. You know how stupid you look if you ask for a Japanese man's pronoun? You know how stupid you look if you just even bring up the concept of a pronoun? You know? Like, okay, let me just rant about how stupid a pronoun is. If you go into class, right, whether it's a fucking women's studies class or you're in high school or middle school, you say like, hey, my name is Zoinky CH. I'm a he pronoun, right? The only time that information would be like useful is if I was talking to you behind your back. You know? There's no like way of me saying he to you. Like, he is a third person pronoun. If I want to talk to you, I would say you. You know, it's like, hey, such and such, or hey, you. You know, I'll use the pronoun you, but not the pronoun he, or I would not use the pronoun they or she or whatever. The reason why people do that is because they're not comfortable enough to saying their gender, but instead uses a substitute to say what their gender is, which makes it like, it's so stupid. It's so stupid because if you think about it, right? If this person, a guy or girl, identifies as a they, whatever the fuck that means, it means that they're not binary, right? Or the je or whatever, or whatever. If identify as if they has a pronoun of a je or a they, it means they're not binary. Why the fuck would I care? Genuinely, why the fuck would I care? Like, I don't care what your gender orientation is, for one. Who the fuck cares? I would care less about your sexual orientation. Like, I'll probably just call you by your name. And by then, why the fuck would I call you in the first place? You know what I mean? It's weird. I don't like the idea of pronouns. I think it's very stupid. I think it's a waste of time. I understand that, like, oh yeah, we're trying to be understanding to everybody, but like, come on, man. Why are we doing extra stuff? Wasting our time to make some people like half comfortable. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't identify as a they. I identify as a he. I'm a dude. I make hentai videos. Like, I'm as straight as a man could be. But like the fact that like some of these people like really care so much, like, oh, please don't use the wrong pronoun. That makes me angry. I'm like, the only time I would use a pronoun is behind your back, and hopefully you don't listen. You know, if you listen, it's already bad. Oh, God, I'm just saying, like, it's a good idea, because I think this concept of gender needs to be explained to like the feminist people out there, that it doesn't exist outside of America. It doesn't. The idea of you identifying as a fridge is a complete like question mark outside of America. It is. Sure, it might be accepted in like, you know, a sociology class, or maybe even like, you know, in very specific parts of America, it's like very let's go Biden. Again, politics, I'm not talking about that, but it's just, oh my God, it needs to be explained. It needs to be explained. Like, I understand that there's transgenders out there. I know transgender friends that's outside of America, but I don't know. There's never one time that they've told me about their pronouns. There's never. And if I would call them by their name. I just don't use pronouns in my day-to-day sentences. I just don't. Right. Goes about sex. I've talked about that. Race and sexuality. Okay. This is an interesting concept, because here's the thing. The professor that taught me this, I'm not going to say her name. I'm not going to call people out. because it's not their fault. It's their belief. It's their fucking. It's the way they make their living. I'm not gonna call them out, but I'm just gonna say that I just purely disagree with them, and this class sucks. Race and sexuality. Oh my god. They try to make a connection between sexuality and race, and it's so thin. It's very, very thin. The only reason why she teaches this is because she did like a paper on it with like a pretty well-known guy in the feminist world. I don't know. That's what she said. I just believe her. Right. They showed us pictures of like an Asian massage parlor getting like captured by cops. And we get this idea of, oh, Asian people, they're innocent, and they make, oh, that's race and sexuality. And then, for example, that fucking image of that like 5 black dudes and like 1 white girl like standing there, that's sort of like sexual in a way. Of course it comes from actual porn video, but like, yeah, that's sexual. Like, these 5 black guys are sexualized for being black, and this little white girl is being sexualized as being innocent and being, you know, cute and pure, which we know for a fact that she's not. We've seen a lot of. She gets tossed around like mad, but like, whatever. But I'm not talking about that. It's very thin. It's very thin because it does happen. It does happen, but it occasionally happens. Like, it'll happen to you like 3 times a year. Like, yeah, it occasionally happens to you like 3 times a year, and it does not deserve a chapter for me, in my opinion. Like, I think gender and race deserves an example. I think gender deserves a chapter. I think race deserves a chapter. I think social constructs definitely deserve a chapter. But the idea of race and sexuality connecting together, it's a stretch. Because it's a stretch. It does happen, but very rarely. Like, incredibly rarely. The thing that sort of interests me about this chapter is this girl, Laura Maria Agustin. She makes this idea that prostitution is not always bad. When we think of like people like coming from Mexico, right? And they go to prostitution because like we always get this idea like, oh, they're going to prostitution because they had no other choice. She makes the claim that some people prefer to work in sex work than other work because whether it's just they find pleasure in it, whether it's just more money, whether it's anything. And she also makes this claim that as a person that works in sex work, sex workers should be given a choice to be able to work in sex work. Like, a person should be able to have the choice to work in sex work, whether it's now. See, that question brings up the idea of morality. You know what I mean? Like, if you're a religious guy, you know what I mean. If you go to like Christian, like if you're like Christian, Muslim, Buddhist, or whatever, you know for a fact that like, you know, doing sex work isn't really good. You know what I mean? God doesn't look at prostitution and be like, yeah, that's good. Go do that thing. You know, I feel like when it comes to religion, sex is very, well, in Christian sense, it's very like bad. Like, it's very like, it's a sin for some reason. But like, you know, we get this idea like sex is like, you know, it should be like special when you do it. It should not be like something to make money out of. I feel like that's the idea they're trying to make, but it's just I don't know, man. Again, it's a question of like, yeah, do you want people to work in sex work? Do you want people coming from Mexico and just sell their bodies in like downtown LA, South Central? You know what I mean? Like, and like, you know, Florida Keys. Do you want that? Do you really want that? Because like, I was in this high school class and I was in this debate class, and one of us had to debate for prostitution, for sex work, and how like if it should just be legalized and be taxed, and give them like health benefits. You know what I mean? Like routine health checkups on like STDs and whatever. I can't remember which case I like which side I was on because I just really didn't care, but I did. Oh my god! They gave out like an interesting concept of like if you gave STDs, like if you give them like health benefits, if you give them like a good working environment, you know what I mean? It's not it's not as bad as you think, you know. I feel like as like youngins, like as 13-year-old, 14-year-olds, you know, early teens ish age, you get this idea of like, oh my god, sex is so crazy, sex is so cool, wah. In reality, it's sort of just like pump, pump, come, get out of there. That was good. Okay, never see her again. And if you do, you don't look at her. You don't look at her in the eye. This is what I do. But it's I don't know. It's interesting. It's interesting. I personally just do not care. But the question of should sex work be legalized, and I feel like they should just be given the choice. I think that's the bare minimum that you could do instead of just like, oh no, you can't do this work, but you can work at McDonald's for less pay. Because I know for a fact that some prostitution, especially like some prostitutes, especially people like in like higher end prostitution, like higher end, and there is such thing as higher end prostitutes. They could get a lot of money, like a lot of money in a day. Like they could get paid like $1,000 a night, which is look, man, you get paid more in a night than like a month from working McDonald's, and I don't know. I mean, sure, it might be like a 70-year-old dick, but like you can find some pleasure in it. You know, it's a hole's a hole, and if you find pleasure in it, or if you don't, $1,000 is $1,000. The last one, the last section, yeah, it is. It's group and embodiment. They made this question of like how the BMI scale is racist, which I just again they say these ludicrous ideas without explaining it, and for some reason nobody questions it. So the idea behind the BMI scale being racist is that the BMI scale is based upon a white man's body. So, you know, if some people might, some races have bigger bone density, so thus making them more heavier. But you can't tell them a man is more heavier by just bone density, but their fat is small. You know what I mean? There's like a lot of like equations that the BMI doesn't include to. I'm saying that the BMI scale is not perfect. It's not perfect. If you're below average in the BMI scale or above average in the BMI scale, don't be too worried because there's a ton of things that they don't equate to, but it's a good estimation. Look, if you're 180 and you're 5'8", chances are you're a bit overweight. Like that's my reality. Like chances are you're a bit overweight, and you could tell yourself that you're a bit overweight. Now that might not be right for some people. Some people might just have incredible bone density, and you could just be like 180 with like the thickest bone alive. But like, chances are you don't have the thickest bone alive, and chances are it's probably a good scale, and chances are you probably should like lay off the KFC. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing with BMI. They talk about chusmeria, which is like just Latin Americans. Latin Americans in like Florida Keys, which I've never been to Florida. Don't want to. Maybe one day, but like, yeah, it's boring. It's boring stuff. They talked about like standard American beauties, which is just like I don't know, white. Everyone wants to be white or something close to white, and beauty is different in every race. Like for example, we get this idea, right? So if you're white, sorry, if you're me, if you're Asian, if you're me, if you yeah, most Asian people, most Asian men would consider skinny Asian women attractive. You know, just like skinny legs, just skinny. I find skinny girls attractive. I do. I find smaller girls. Okay, let me hold on there. I don't mean by that. I don't mean like that. But like, I find like smaller girls more attractive. That's just the way it is. For example, but in another sense, most African American males would find like thicker women more attractive. You know, the bigger tits, the bigger ass, you know, the bigger thighs. You know, ooh yes, let me shake that ass, twerking and all that fucking bullshit. You know, I don't. It's preference. I'm just saying. Like you could tell in like racial, like sorry, you could tell in like raps. They're like, oh yeah, everyone raps about like bigger asses and bigger tits, and you know, she ate her cornbread. You know what I mean? To get her ass bigger. Like, you know, beauty is different in every race, but they're trying to say that like it's somehow racialized. Like they're trying to fucking say that fat phobia is racist. I'm just like, I'm not. Look, let me tell you a story. It was a perfect day. I woke up early and I was like looking at the topics of what we're gonna cover this class, and I was like, how fat phobia is rooted from racism, and I was like, fuck that. I'm not going to the class. Like, there's no way in hell you could justify that. You can't. You cannot. You cannot. Sure, a thicker ass means you're fatter. I guess not really. If you've never seen a human body before, are you a Christian? No. God, you want me? God, I should have a Q&A session. No lie. I'm not a Christian. Women moment. That is true. I love women moments. But oh my God, I'm barely a Muslim. Like, I follow Muslim beliefs. I don't eat pork. But I do have a hentai channel. So, you know what I mean? Like, I'm barely Muslim, but I follow most Muslim like scriptures. I read a little bit of Arabic, a little bit, but not a lot. Like very small. I hear like read the basic Al Quran, but like that's about it. Yeah, but no, I just like fuck. I just don't like. I don't like the idea of them saying stuff like fat phobia being racist and like not make like it just sounds stupid. I don't even want to learn about the idea of like I don't even want to know. I don't want to know because I know it's stupid. We could end it by like the open-ended questions that I need to fucking go through in the reviews. So so in one of the questions it's like your uncle claims that privilege does not exist. Individuals should and can work hard for everything and obtain. And I asked the professor, I was like, hey, when you say this, do you mean race? And she said, no, it could be anything. What? Fat men are seen as attractive in other countries. It resembles wealth since they can't afford so much food. That's what I'm saying, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Like, that's what they're saying. Like, beauty is different. Like, I know some fat men that get ton of bitches. Like, not in other countries, like in America, they get ton of bitches. Like, they just got game, you know what I mean? Like, look, I'm just saying. Some people like fat men. Some people like fat. Some women prefer to fuck a guy 3 times their weight. That sounds nuts, but like, you know, I do not want to fuck a woman 3 times my weight. That just sounds like a ab workout. Like, I just don't want. I don't know. I'm not into that, but. That's true. That is true. Ah, God, but yeah, this is a weird question though. Your uncle claims that privilege does not exist. It does. I'll tell you right now, it does. But it just does. It just does. But there's also things that you can work on. You know what I mean? Fuck. Stupid example. But like Haikyuu, you know what I mean? There's this kid who's like 5'8". But he works his butt off, and he jumps really high, and now he makes it to the championship, and now he's the best volleyball player in the entire country, and soon to be entire world. Maybe like Haikyuu 9 is gonna be like him fighting like Martians. I don't fucking know. But I don't like Haikyuu. I don't even watch it. But like, look, there is things that you can achieve by working hard, but obviously there is such thing as privilege. There is. There is. But like not even just race. There's things like, you could be richer. You could dress nicer. Like if you're richer, you dress nicer, and you get the job. You're more likely to get a job. That's just the way it is. Like, privilege does exist. I don't know what else to tell you. Oh god, I love this. White ethnic pride group wants to take hold at SBU. This is where I go. They cite ethnicity as the primary marker that unites them. You know how insane that's Look, when they fucking brought up the idea of white ethnicity, a pride group, it's so funny to me because that's just like steps. Like that's like B-Tech KKK. Obviously, this is bad. Not only that, like white privilege is a thing, and most of the people in America is white. It's like 75% is white. So like you don't need a white pride group in the first place because everyone is sort of white. Like that's just weird. Like why would you? Your white pride group is just like literally like most of the student body, which is nuts. But that's just the Republican Party, am I right? That whatever, fuck. Yeah. Against this effort, they talk about again race as being different than ethnicity. You could be very different. You could, like an Italian man has a very different culture than a Polish man or an Irish man. You know what I mean? Conor McGregor is different than Marcelo. No, he's not white. Conor McGregor is very different than the Pope. Culturally, sure, they might be like both Catholics, but like Conor McGregor is this Irish man who drinks a lot of beer and drinks a lot of whiskey, and the Pope is not that, and culturally not that, yeah, because women tend to give birth to babies, they're naturally better at. That's just wrong. Oh my god, the idea of a baby mama exists. Like, one of these should be like, just like, baby mamas are terrible at keeping their they're keeping their females in check. That's just the way it is. Oh my god, it's just so funny to me. That's just wrong. Look, you don't need to take the class to answer that question. Your sexual preference for partners is a biological determination part of your identity. Oh my god, I forgot about to talk about one thing. They were talking about how sexuality didn't exist before the 19th century, which is so funny. Yeah, here's this. Look at this fucking question. This is a fucking brilliant question. So, invention of sexuality. Sexuality only emerged in the 19th century. What were people doing until then? These are the people in my class. These are the same people that make this question. Sexuality only emerged in the 19th century. What were people doing until then? Obviously they were doing sex, because sexuality didn't exist. Duh, you fucking dumb nut. See what I mean? That's such a stupid question. I saw someone wrote that. I was just like I was holding my laughter because it was so stupid. So the concept that what they mean by that is like the concept of heterosexuality didn't exist until the 19th century. People were just sort of fucking the other gender. It was just the way it is. They're like, everyone were just more like, it was sort of like accepted. It was just like, you should fuck a female. Like, the idea of homosexuality didn't exist because it just, nobody talked about it. Nobody talked about like, oh yeah, you guys didn't fuck guys? Like, yeah, the idea of that didn't exist. There's this like sort of like I guess, famous trivia, I guess, of how like the Romans are very gay, and how, or yeah, the Spartans and Romans and like the Greeks were all very gay because they had like bathhouses where like all men just like were naked, and they like would dress up their women as like how they would look like their partners in battle so they could fuck them. Like there were a bunch of things that were like, oh yeah, the Romans were gay, but you gotta understand that the word gay did not exist then. It was all the idea was like, we need to fuck a woman to make another baby, so we continued our race, so we could keep on battling and go crazy. Like that was the idea. So the idea of sexuality as being heterosexual, gay, bisexual, whatever the fuck pansexual means. I think pansexual means like bi, but not as like, it's like bi, but not really. I feel like that's what pansexual is. I feel like people just like, it's like bisexual, but like not really. Like it's like, maybe. Like it's literally that. But yeah, that's what that. That's such a stupid question. I hope that question gets like is exists in the test. But the BMI has nothing to do with race. It does, but it doesn't. See, that's the thing. That's the thing with the BMI, man. Like they make this claim that race is socially constructed, that like everybody is technically the same, like everybody is there's no biological difference between a white man, a black man, an Asian man, and a whatever, you know. There's no difference because everything is a social construct. The race in itself is a social construct. But they make this claim that the BMI is racist because everybody's bodies are different, and everybody's races, like the race of everybody is different. See what I mean? They contradict themselves, and it's not only this. I know there's like a ton of more, but I just can't remember them. But like, it's just stupid. Another one here I'm thinking about, like the idea of social constructionism, and they're like, oh yeah, social constructionism really doesn't exist, so it really should not matter. Then they fucking talk about like fucking racism and privilege and white privilege. Like why would we talk about the idea of social constructionism when you know that everyone in the world like abides to it? It's just I just look. Let me fucking just end this. Let me gently just like give a conclusion and to all of this. I don't know why I just did that. I should just fucking yeah. Let me just give a conclusion to this. Don't take a women's studies class because chances are they're fucking speaking bullshit. Sociology is not a science. It is religion. It is a religion. If you gotta trust it, you gotta believe it with your heart and soul. And sure, it's backed by logic, but it's more like just your brain thinking. That's social. That's women's studies. That's sociology. Am I feminist? I believe in some of the ideas. Again, I do think that like sexuality is non-binary. I think that you can be any gender you want, but you gotta understand that gender really doesn't matter in a context. That shit, like the idea of a gender is stupid, and I hate it. But technically, you can be, by definition, you can be anything. That's like it's stupid. I'm just saying, women's studies is stupid. VOYFYI. Am I getting banned? Is that what I'm doing? Is that what's happening? Am I getting banned? I don't know, what do you mean? Are you in my class somehow? Are you like trying to snitch on me and my professor? Please don't. I don't think I said anything bad. I just generally said what I needed to say. Because I'm gonna tell you right now. The class is like, what, 80% women? And the one time I talked and I was like, yo, I think this is not right. I think there's something, but just not just race. Like I think there's something else. And okay, let me just tell you a little story. So we were in Zoom because of course professor loved their Zooms. We were in a Zoom meeting and we were breaking out these breakout rooms and we're there to discuss about one of our racial. One time we were racialized, right? Uh, this girl was talking about like, oh yeah, this professor was treating me bad because I was black, and he was thinking that he was thinking that I was stupid because I was black, and I was like, I don't know, maybe it's just because you're younger, because chances are, if you're a 60-year-old man, you have this weird ego and just like, oh, I know better than youngerins. Like that's what I think. That's my question. That was my question. It's like, hey, do you think that age has something to do with this? Maybe. And she was like offended, completely offended. She was snitching on the professor. It's like, hey, one of these guys made me offended. I want to cry now. Thanks, fucking asshole, you stupid brown bitch. Yeah, but I just don't. I cannot talk out in this class because chances are I'm gonna offend somebody, or even worse, I'm gonna offend the professor, and the professor is just gonna fail me out of the class, and I gotta retake the class and all that bullshit. And I don't want to do that. Um, so that's why I'm making the stream. It's an hour stream. It's thumbnailed. It's gonna be like a video, but I don't know. Don't take sociology class, people. I don't know what else to tell you. They are spewing bullshit. Besides the gender stuff, which is surprisingly the least amount of bullshit, but sort of is solar bullshit, they're just spewing bullshit, people. They're just spewing bullshit. Video in a couple of days is a big one. So, it's actually about like gender and shit, and like transgender people and whatever. That's pretty fun. But it's like a genuine anime, so yeah, you don't need to see me talk weird about like women and genders and fat people, how fat people are racist. So yeah.